CZ comes out and makes a bold prediction about Bitcoin today. So basically what he's saying is strap on, because Bitcoin always hits multiple all-time highs, and people have short-term memory, meaning that, yeah, we're not anywhere close to our previous high, and we always have multiple. By the end of every run, we have multiple. The high is multiples higher than the previous high, right? Let's just put it that way. It happens every single time. Our last high was 69,000, but the prior one was 20,000. The prior one before that was 1,000. See the pattern? So this time around, our high is going to be much higher than 69,000. And people have short-term memories because they either forgot or they just weren't around. So according to CZ, nothing changes. And I've said that. I've been telling you guys, this is the absolute worst time to be getting out of Bitcoin, because this is when it gets really exciting. Really, really exciting. Here's something that looks at previous cycles. We're only 200 days away from the next halving event. Okay, less than 200 days. And we're right at that point where, yeah, we're right about at the halving event. And right afterwards, guess what happens? We start going up, right? So we're getting closer and closer and closer to that. And you guys know why the halving event is important, right? Because the inflation rate of Bitcoin gets cut in half. All the inflation shenanigans that's been going on recently, right, around the world, Bitcoin has the opposite. It moves opposite what the world is doing, right? The world is causing artificial inflation right now. Bitcoin is causing artificial deflation, basically, or disinflation. So like we're right at that point. Previous cycles, you're down like about 65% at this point. Another one in 2019, we're down about 60% at this point. We're still down about 60%, right? So again, it doesn't always repeat, but it tends to rhyme. And that's exactly what's happening right now. So even if you discount everything else that's going on in the world, all the macro stuff and geopolitical stuff and wars, even if you discount everything, you could make an argument that Bitcoin should be at this point because of the halving events, because of the cycles. This is how Bitcoin moves. You could make that argument as well. But looking at these patterns, here's another fractal pattern. Pre-bull run 7 months out. Right? Yeah, again, you can make that association like, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing before we break out into wherever we may break out into, right? 200,000, 250,000, 300,000. It looks almost identical. So far in Q3, this is even before, obviously, this war that broke out. Commodities have been leading the way. Stores of value. Things that people can hold on to and they feel like it's worth something, possibly like precious metals like gold and silver and copper. And also other things that, I don't know, real estate, for example, right? Just things that people think, physical things that people think will hold value. But there's one non-digital thing that's considered a commodity that has outperformed everything by leaps and bounds, okay? And that's Bitcoin. Nothing has outperformed Bitcoin. So we haven't seen this before. We haven't seen Bitcoin exist in previous recessions. We haven't seen Bitcoin exist in previous wars either. I take that back. Maybe there's a war or two, but, I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. But going back 10 years, 12 years, I don't believe there's any major wars. Anyways, my point is this. When people get fearful, they turn to what they know. And they turn to, precious metals and commodities, right? But we have a new commodity that's better in every single way, right? So do I expect Bitcoin to get weaker from this conflict, from this war? Undetermined at this point. Undetermined. I am realistic, right? Meaning that if this war turns out to be much worse than anticipated, and somehow the U.S. is drawn fully into it, protecting its ally. Now, I had to research this. Israel and Egypt are the only two allies to the U.S. that are non-NATO members. They are considered ally. If the U.S. gets pulled into this, and it becomes very, very bad for the U.S. economically, and our stock markets and markets overall start crashing, will it affect Bitcoin? Yes. Yes, if everything crashes, everything crashes, right? So will that happen? Yes. But let's say we do start accruing more debt, okay? We get more and more debt. We get possibly higher rate hikes. We get possibly more banks to fail in these kind of situations, and inflation is sky high. I think in those situations, it actually might help Bitcoin. Actually, more people will turn to Bitcoin because that's exactly what happened earlier this year, right? When banks started failing due to basically high inflation, due to high rates, right? What did people flock to? They flocked to Bitcoin, right? So I think that this could actually help Bitcoin as well. So I'm kind of in the middle right now. I know a lot of people are like, I don't know, right? Is this go effective? Is it not? Yeah, it's kind of like a wait and see moment right now, right? Obviously, this war just broke out. It could last years upon years upon years, okay? And right now, Bitcoin's price, although it went down about $500 overall, hasn't really moved. So, do I think Bitcoin will be affected by this? Long term, definitely not. Short term, let's see. But everything else I've been saying about Bitcoin heading into the Santa rally, heading into the halving event, and everything else that's happening in 2024 has not changed. Not changed because of this. And here's something else too. Just 11.69%, less than 12% of circulating supply has changed hands over the last 3 months. All-time low. You guys are used to me saying all-time high, but in this case, all-time low is the same. Basically, no one wants to sell their Bitcoin. No one wants to trade their Bitcoin. It'll be silly to do so. This is a time to be accumulating, right? So long-term holders continue to hodl and hodl and hodl and hodl and hodl, right? And short-term holders or short-term retail investors that don't believe, they basically gotten out. So now you're left with just people that are holding and institutions that are buying. Because we know institutions are buying. There's proof of that. You can see the exchange reserves drop dramatically all the time, randomly. And we know all the spot Bitcoin ETFs that are pending, that are about to be launched, right? So, again, this comes down to supply and demand, right? Supply is going to be cut and demand keeps going up. I mean, it's really that simple. It really is.